Golgotha, and welcome to yet another episode of Sports Scene. It's always great to have your company. Joining me once again is Kila. Kila, how's it going?
Good, thank you, Dini. Great to be on the show again tonight, yes.
All right, now I know you've covered the PNGDF Arms at Meet, is that correct?
Yes.
Arms at Meet
SAAM.
competition up at Goldie.
Yes.
Tell me, you on the ground, and I saw the footage, it was exciting. How was it?
Guns, bullets, who could not be excited about that? So yeah, it was a whole day's event that ended that time, and we were luckily there to cover the last bit of the 2 weeks competition, yes.
What's the concept about? What's it really about for that PNGDF guys?
It's for them. It's about weapons discipline. It's about the soldiers' discipline. It's a holistic approach to grooming a soldier, and as it is, it's a lead up to the 2020 Australian Skills at Arm Meet. So yeah, it was an exciting time, and of course the soldiers there were all into it, because it's something that
it was competitive.
Yes.
All right, that story coming up later on the show. Now, apart from that, on the show we will also bring you some updates from the East Papua CARNIVAL that seems to be gaining a following. We also feature something a little bit different. That's shooting. Kila's already mentioned. That's the PNGDF Skills at Arms Meet. Sports Foundation CEO Peter Tsiamalili Jr. also joins us to share some insight of how the year went for them and more. And we begin with the East Papua CARNIVAL. It has been underway in Port Moresby's Basin Prison for a month, mainly run by and for the people of Milne residing in and around the city. It's grown over the years. President Joyce Grant says they're planning to branch out into other sports apart from soccer in coming years.
So we had a big challenge last year when we first walked in to not much preparation, but we're happy to go into our second year. This time around we're a lot more prepared. As you can see around the field, we've got at least a minimum of about 2,000 people here just to observe and participate and watch over the games.
Insofar as the teams are concerned, how many teams or clubs are participating this year?
This year we were one club short. Last year we had 22. This year we've only able to get 21. But of the 21 clubs, they've got male and female, women's team and men's team. So altogether there's 21 clubs, 43 teams, 11 female women's team, and 32 men. The history behind EPC, the beginning roots was for it to be a community avenue for our people of Milne Bay that were based in Port Moresby to get together. And soccer was our main game that we enjoyed. We've always stuck with soccer. We're hoping with my EPA registration we'll start to move off to different sports. So next year we've got a temporary calendar, that tentative calendar that we're working on. So we may spin off into futsal, volleyball and other games so that it's just not predominantly just on soccer.
Coming up next, we'll take a look at PNGDF Skills at Arms Meet that ended last Friday. Stay with us. Welcome back, you're watching Sports Scene. The PNGDF shooting competition for 2019 saw over 100 soldiers partake. Different shooting skills and talents were displayed over a 2-week period. The competition is a lead up to the annual shooting competition, the Australian Skills at Arms Meet, or the ASAAM. Our crew was there to cover the last day of the competition last Friday.
It's not every day we get to see soldiers displaying their expertise in shooting. 8th of November saw the last day of the shooting competition at the Goldie River Barracks. It was all about guns and bullets. The Papua New Guinea Defence Force Skills at Arms Meet is similar to that of the Australian Skills at Arms Meet. This is a combat-focused skill at arms competition that encompasses current in-service small arms systems competed at individual and unit levels. The competition is designed to allow for the assessment of current in-service small arms systems capabilities, equipment and targetry, and training analysis of combat shooting techniques, weapon training doctrine, and small practices. A total of 9 units participated in this year's shooting competition. The Long Range Reconnaissance Unit, the 1st Battalion Royal Pacific Islands Regiment, the 2nd Battalion Royal Pacific Islands Regiment, Goldie River Training Depot, Headquarters PNGDF, Force Support Battalion, HMPNGS Basilisk, Air Transport Wing and HMPNGS Tarangal. The only unit that didn't participate was the Engineering Unit. Over 100 soldiers from all over Papua New Guinea participated, refining and testing their firing skills. As the comp drew to a close, the head of the Defence Force, Commander Major General Gilbert Torpo, tried out his skills. In his remark, he highlighted that he was impressed at this year's competition.
It's been one of my annual activities over the last 5 years to see that our weapons proficiency, weapons handling, and shooting to improve in all of our servicemen and women. And this is the core of a military organization and military men and women. And you have displayed that over the last 2 weeks, and I have witnessed a bit of it this afternoon. And I am very impressed with the standard of shooting. So I want to commend all of those 9 teams, the units, participated over the last 2 weeks. You have shown your skills. You have done very, very well. But at the end of the day, as you know, there's one that has to win through the scoring systems.
The Skill at Arms Meet is the platform which allows for selections of the best shooters to represent Papua New Guinea in the Australian Skill at Arms Meet, or ASAAM, an annual event. And for 2020, it is set to eventuate in March in Australia. From this year's event, 30 men have already been selected. They will go through a similar program which will be staged early next year. Out of the 30, only 15 soldiers will be selected to represent the PNGDF for the 2020 ASAAM. The Long Range Reconnaissance Unit of the Goldie River Barracks came out champions of the 2019 PNGDF Skills at Arms Meet.
It's a great feeling. It's something that what we are working at before the competition pays off.
2nd Battalion Royal Pacific Islands Regiment, or 2RPIR WIWEC, took out the 2nd placing, while in the 3rd was the 1st Battalion Royal Pacific Islands Regiment, or 1RPIR. PNGDF competitiveness in the ASAAM could be enhanced if we had the scope weapon system.
Our weapon system is unlike the other nations. We don't have the scope that the other nations used and then used for a shoot. So we've basically shot with an iron scoping. So until such time where we get the scope on the weapons, probably we'll do better. It helps individual soldiers, one, for the weapon handling, in the weapon handling, and then as a team, in a team setting, they also operate as a team, so that they can operate in any call-outs or any duties that the PNGDF is engaged in. It gives them self-discipline, team discipline, and weapon discipline as well.
Despite this lack, we took 12th placing out of the 20 countries in the 2017 ASAAM.
something a little different indeed. Kila, you were out there. Tell me, this is of course for the preparations towards going over to Australia for the arms meet over there. What will happen from now on? I believe there will be another sort of competition that will happen for them to cut down the numbers?
Yes, so Jenny, from that last event, they selected 30. They didn't tell us the names, but they selected 30 persons who will come back for a similar event that's early next year, January. So from there, 15 will be, it'll be cut down to 15, and then those 15 will represent PNGDF in the Australian meet, Skills at Arms meet, yes.
Nice, that's great. All the best to them, of course. PNGDF seems to be, engaging, getting these soldiers to engage with competitions from around the region. The women's team, the sevens team went over last month and they did great. They got bronze medal. And, now we have the arms meet and there's promising competitions coming up for PNGDF soldiers to take part in.
Yes.
Yes, it's great to see that. We'll go for a break now, and on the other side, PNG Sports Foundation CEO Peter Tsiamalili Jr. looks back on the foundation's achievements, challenges, and what 2019 promises. Don't go away.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. As we head into another year end of 2019, we'd like to bring into focus the highlights, the challenges, and the achievements and goals, and what we expect to see in 2020 for the sporting years. Joining me in the studio tonight is Mr. Peter Tsiamalili Jr., CEO of Sports Foundation, PNG Sports Foundation, pardon. Mr. Tsiamalili, thank you for joining us in the studio.
Thank you, MTV, and I would like to take this opportunity also just to acknowledge the partnership that we've had with MTV. We'd like to strengthen that, and this opportunity is for me just to acknowledge that. And, MTV has provided a lot of coverage, covering sports across the country.
Now, tell us about the highlights, what we've seen unfolded so far for 2019, especially in relation to PNG Sports Foundation.
The positive that we've had this year for the first time is there's been a lot more collaboration between the national federations through their affiliated body, which is the Olympic Committee, through Sir J and Ovita Rapila, Secretary General, who have been a great partner and who have continued to encourage this partnership with the government. And so the PNG Sports Foundation, being the lead agency for sports in the country, I think for the first time we're starting to enjoy that partnership and strengthen that partnership, because right now in our country, the biggest investor in any activity is the government. In the last few months, coming off the back of this year's Pacific Games, there's been a lot more dialogue between the national federations and the Olympic Committee, our partner. We've had a significant year this year also, apart from Pacific Games, where the two bodies, the Olympic Committee and the PNG Sports Foundation, the government arm, for the first time signed an MOU where Thomas Bach, the Olympic president, was in the country, had a visit to the Pacific, and we were so fortunate that he actually came to Papua New Guinea. And back then it was the Prime Minister, Peter O'Neill, and him witnessing the signing between the two major bodies of sports in the country, which is a significant step forward for sports in the country, and we can only get better into the future. We look after sports for development at the grassroots level, and at the same time sports for development. We cannot do it all alone. We will need partners, and the Olympic Committee is a great partner, because the Olympic Committee is made up of all the national federations that affiliate to that body. And so they look after more the specific areas of sports, while we look after more the generic part of sports, like sports governance. And so going forward, this partnership can only set the platform for the future of sports in the country. And we've already seen that sports has grown significantly from being amateur to now to being almost professional. And we're at the verge of having more professional players coming out of Papua New Guinea through the space of sports than we've ever had in the past. A great example is the cricket PNG, a team that has been very quiet, humbly preparing themselves and ticking off all their boxes in terms of their governance, their sports development, at the same time also nurturing and building their national team, and culminating with them qualifying for the 2020 World Cup is not by accident. It's something that they progressively have done for the last 5 to 6 years, which have resulted in them going to the World Cup. And now this is, this clearly shows that sports in the country is taking a whole new revolution, that there will be more professional players coming out of Papua New Guinea. The industry of sports will be much bigger than it was before. And it's all coming back to the investment that the government made almost a decade ago, when they decided that they're going to host the Pacific Games, 2015 Pacific Games, and they were going to invest, almost $1 billion kina worth of finance into building the infrastructure. And so we are starting to see the results of those investments into our country. We've always had the hunters. I mean, the hunters have come off on the back of PNG Rugby League, getting their house in order, getting their administration and their clear vision on what they wanted to achieve with their game. And so then they took the next step of entering into a semi-professional competition. They've been the spearhead of a lot of good surge of sports becoming a professional entity in the country, and we know that we use them as our, obviously, something that we look forward to or aspire to get up to their level, and all the other sports can work towards that. But again, this has always been the involvement of the government to the people, and especially to the youths of Papua New Guinea. In the near future, we are the first country also to develop a high performance center. The high performance center is the next stage or next evolution of sports at a professional level. But the challenges that we've had in 2019 comes off at the back of some of the biggest events that we've had in the last 5 years. Since 2015, 2016, 17 and 18, coming back from the Pacific Games to the Women's World Cup and to the Rugby League World Cup, culminating to 2019, where we saw the Pacific Games, which is the biggest event that we've had in the country this year. A lot of challenges that sports have faced across the board. There is a surge of professionalism that is now being instilled in a lot of the sports, especially in terms of its governance and administration. And so we could see that a lot with the performance of sports in 2019. (2020) is going to be one of our biggest year, because for the first time we have done a complete overhaul on our policy, sports policy. And 2020 is the year that we're going to start the awareness on the policy and then the implementation of that sports policy. And our sports policy is developed into segmented to 6 or to 30 years actually. It's in line with the 2050 vision. So in the next 30 years, when we're 2020 next year, we have a plan all the way to 2050, which, like I've said before, ultimately the aspirations of sports is to build good people for the country. Well, 2020, apart from the launching of the policy, my dear, it's interesting because at the end of this month, we're actually going to take a trip down to Mendi, to Southern Highlands, where the PNG Games is earmarked to be delivered up in Southern Highlands. That's going to be a big event for us as Papua New Guinea next year in 2020. We've said as a council that at the end of this month, we're all going to go up to Mendi and we're going to see how the progress has been with the local organising committee. And if the local organising committee is on track in delivering the 2020 game, then everyone is going to look forward to going up to Mendi. In the event that there are slight delays and we feel that the infrastructure may not necessarily be ready, the general consensus of the council is that the games are going to be held back in Port Moresby and hosted by the council, not by NCD or Central. It's going to be hosted by the council because the council is the 22 provinces. So we're going to host it because the infrastructure is already here and we don't want to delay the games any longer or, you know, push it back again. We've had experiences where we keep pushing back the game and the youths get disheartened and the preparation is not there. There's a few athletes going to Tokyo 2020. There's both with the able athletes and the para athletes. So there's a good contingent of potential athletes that we're going to send to 2020, and they've already been preparing. There's some at this point in time just going through their qualification. So by the end of the year, we would know exactly how many are our athletes that are participating in the 2020.
Well, there you go, Papua New Guinea. That was Mr. Peter Tsiamalili Jr. in the studio tonight, telling us all about PNG Sports Foundation and what it has done so far and what we look forward to in 2020. Welcome back, Papua New Guinea, and thanks for staying with us on Sports Scene. For the first time in 23 years, the Great Britain Lions will play on PNG soil. The travellers from the north meet the Kumuls at the Oil Search National Football Stadium in Port Moresby this Saturday. This is also the first time after the 2017 Rugby League World Cup for the PNG LNG Kumuls to play on home soil.
The PNG LNG Kumuls returned to home base Port Moresby bruised from an entertaining match ending in a 2-point loss to the Fiji Bati. Nevertheless, the players still appeared determined for the next upon their arrival at the Jacksons International Airport.
Yeah, the boys are really hurting after that loss. It was a close loss. They gave it all they had, and we were really unlucky to come off without the loss, without the win. But there are a lot of positives that we took out of that match. So we'll look forward to this weekend and hopefully turn it back this weekend here. When we arrived there, you know, the time difference and adjusting to a lot of the issues down there, the boys really managed to adjust well, and just part of the game. I think a little errors that we need to fix early that got us at the back end of the game. So those are the sort of areas that we'll be looking at trying to fix. It really hurt them last night. Coming back to the hotel, you could just see the bus was really quiet after the game. So you know, but I think the Coach Michael sort of touched on the positives that we can build on going into the next game. So one thing about the Fiji game is that they played a week earlier and their sort of game fitness was sort of higher than our boys. But in saying that, I think a couple of errors that we probably did in the first half probably caught us in the end. And if we can cut those errors, I think the boys will be better off this weekend, especially after that game. Yeah, that's a key area that the coaching staff we spoke about it last night, and that's one key area that will be, you know, especially with the Great Britain side. I think they've got bigger forwards in the middle there, so we'll just have to tidy that up, and hopefully, you know, we won't allow any more tries to go in. Soft tries like that, especially in the middle with our big boys there. They just have to stand up and man up for the whole 80 minutes. So we'll really work on that this weekend. Yeah, the halves really played well. Watson Boas, Kyle Labart, Watavo. We went into the game trying to give Watavo a bit of a break at 9 there, but because of the pressure of the game, it didn't allow us to, and he played for the whole 80 minutes. Watavo and Kyle, like I said, they combined well, and you know, this is something we've been building for the last couple of years, and it's coming good, which is a really big positive for us. Johnson at the back there had a good game for his first match. You know, that we probably and our tries came from long-range sort of individual efforts. And one of them that Watson scored, I think he actually caused the mistake and then he backed up his second effort to score the try. So Adena, if we can give him a bit more space there. So these are things that we'll be working on this week. And there's a lot more positives than the negatives, so which is good for us.
The Kumuls were back on the field training a day later. With just a week to prepare, they play host to the Great Britain Lions at the weekend. This comes 23 years since the Lions last toured the land of the unexpected PNG.
Yeah, I'm excited to be out there again this weekend. Obviously, it's been a year since I last played for the Kumuls. I couldn't during the year because of the Super League commitments, but I'm definitely looking forward to go out there. Yeah, no, I was watching the boys on the weekend. I thought the boys played really well. It's just ball control, giving Fiji too much possession, and then probably doing too many unnecessary offloads and stuff like that. So we'll try and control that a bit better this week, and hopefully play a lot better. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think the best position for me in this team would be obviously in the centres. We've got Alex, who plays fullback there for South Sydney, and we've got some good quality outside backs there. And I've been playing centres in the Super League for the Catalan Dragons most of this year and last year, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm excited to be part of that back line. Some speed in that back line. You got Alex and Adena there, and you got Justin and Star there as well. So I'm excited to go out there with the boys. Obviously, we're going to have to need to do a lot of work. Be a hot Saturday afternoon, so we need to do a lot of work to help our forwards out.
Former Kumuls captain David Mead arrived a day after the team touched down straight into training after missing the game against Fiji for personal reasons. His inclusion in the team this week is amongst several inclusions and reshuffles undertaken by the coach.
Changes that Coach Michael confirmed this afternoon. David Mead comes into this game. He'll be playing in the centres alongside Justin Olam. Dan Russell from the centre goes to second row. So Dan Russell will be second row with Nixon Put. Reece Martin pushes out to lock. Moses Meninga gets pushed to the bench. The starting props are the same, Wellington and Luke Page. The hooker is the same, Watavo, and the halves are the same, Kyle and Watson. Alex Johnson is at fullback, so and there's another change on the wing. Terry Wapi gets dropped to 19 men, and Stargrowth Amian goes to the wing with Adena. Gary Law comes to the bench with Edwin Ipape, Stanton Albert and Moses Meninga. And Stanford Talita is the 18th man.
Speaking of the Lions, they arrived here in Port Moresby on Tuesday ahead of the match this Saturday against our Kumuls.
A cultural welcome for the tourists from far north. A small crowd also present for the arrival. The Great Britain Lions on PNG soil. The tour comes 23 years since they last played the PNG Kumuls. Great Britain and England coach Wayne Bennett, who is no new face to PNG, had his fan base waiting. The team is excited to be here.
Yeah, The welcome today was brilliant at the airport for the boys. We had a traditional welcome from some of the locals, and it was really a really good introduction to Papua New Guinea. I've never been here myself before, so it's really exciting to come here to where sports, the national sport, and their number one kind of favourite activity. So we're looking forward to meeting a few people, meeting some of the locals, and getting out there and putting a show on Saturday. I think it's going to be a real interesting game. I think Papua New Guinea played really well against Fiji at weekend as well. They played with a lot of passion. They worked really hard for each other. So like I said before, we have to be at our best, and physically and mentally as well, because they will test you. Obviously the heat will test us. It's something different than what we've been used to. So that'll test us in the next few days, and obviously on the game on Saturday. But obviously Papua New Guinea have got some really good players in there who we need to be aware of. We're looking forward to the challenge that brings. We need to make sure we get a win to finish off this series. Obviously we felt we improved in the first game against New Zealand from the Tongan game, but last week we probably took a little bit of a step back, and we didn't execute as well as what we wanted to do, and we didn't put our game plan into action. So we're about fixing a few things up this week in training and take that forward into the game come Saturday. I think last year our England Knights team came out to play Papua New Guinea, and all the players you speak to there said it was a great kind of experience, not just only in rugby but in life experience as well, coming seeing something different and being in a different part of the world as well, and getting time to spend together. So I know the England Knights really benefited from that. For us and Great Britain, these guys are at the top of their game, so this is the top level that they can play at this moment in time, and coming challenging yourselves against a Papua New Guinea side on their home soil is a big challenge, and it's one that we have to be ready for, and we need to approach really well.
The Great Britain Lions is made up of players from England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. The star-studded Lions come into the match taking nothing for granted.
If we're not on our game this weekend, if we clock off a little bit too early, we can get beat, and they've got a lot of quality players in their side. I know one of them very well. He's Alex Johnson, plays with me at Souths, and he's a top quality player. So we've got to be on our game, and we're not taking it lightly at all. There's been no lack of effort in the games, and everyone's been playing hard, but we just probably need to be a little bit smarter in the game, and hopefully we can get the win.
The game will be something to watch. Both teams come into the match confident. The Lions hungry for victory, coming off 3 straight test losses. The Kumuls play on home soil with the nation behind their back, a nation where rugby league is the #1 sport.
And Watson Boas will go in to score for the Kumuls, and all but put a full stop on this match.
And all the very best to our guys, the PNG Kumuls. We'll go for a break now, and on the other side, Sports Scene continues.
Welcome back. You're watching Sports Scene. Now, joining me in the studio tonight is Rex Lecker, the Senior Community Football Manager for the AFL PNG Development Limited and PNG AFL Commission. Rex, thank you very much for joining us tonight on Sports Scene.
Thanks, Kayla. Thanks for having me tonight.
Now, Rex is here to talk about the highlights, the challenges and the goals and the plans that AFL PNG or PNG AFL Commission has for the coming year. So, Rex, tell us about the highlights or the plans that have unfolded so far this year.
Yeah. Firstly, I'll start with the seniors, with the PNG AFL Commission. We've run the senior competitions in Port Moresby, Lae, and Kimber, and East New Britain, and Hoskins, Biela, and a little place called Garua, also in West New Britain. Those were the senior competitions running through for this year, and they've all ended in the month of September, and they're all are getting themselves prepared for the national championships, which will commence at the end of this month in Kimber, West New Britain.
Now, you mentioned a number of places. What measures is AFL PNG taking in terms of developing this code in the country?
Yeah, we've got we under the AFL PNG Development Limited. We've got the junior development programs that are running currently running in Port Moresby, Lae, Mount Hagen, Kavieng, West New Britain, and East New Britain. And they're the junior programs running in the under 13 and under 15 divisions in both boys and girls in the primary schools. And that's during the first 3 terms of the calendar year for the schools where they where the school programs have been running in there. And towards the last term of the year, that's when the programs have been moved up onto the secondary schools that are currently happening at the moment.
So what are some of the challenges that you faced for your code in the country?
I think there's only one challenge. It's the support that we, both in the juniors and the seniors, is the support from the government and the major sponsors to promote the code more and to get into more rural areas and more other centers around the country. We'd love to spread the game back out to Buka and back up in Wuwek, in Medang, in Goroka, those places that way back in the 40s and 50s. The game was being played up there in the late 70s and 80s as well. So that's one of the big challenges that through the junior development program we've got to get more support from the government and other major sponsors, business houses out there to get the code out there to those centers that we haven't touched yet.
Now, obviously, the support that you're seeking is for a worthy cause, because we remember ACE, one of the products of this development it's been happening throughout the year. Tell us about for more of such talents to come out from this code.
Yeah, ACE is one of our products that have come through the junior development program. It's pretty hard to get a lot of them down there. Depending on what the structures are, how the criteria and stuff that's been run during the tournaments down in Queensland. It all starts back here. How we get the development officers to get out there. The way we teach the kids of how to play the game and to live healthier lives and things like that. And I think Ace was one of them that really picked it up. And then he never looked looked back. He just kept going, and we're really happy to see him go this far now.
Now, obviously, the more support and what that we're putting to codes can bring out such talents as well. Now, tell us about some plans or what we look forward to in the coming year, 2020.
Yeah, for 2020, there's only one big game that comes up every 3 years. It's the AFL International Cup that's held in Melbourne, Australia, every 3 years. I think since the country knows that the PNG has gone into all the last 6 international cups for the PNG Mosquitoes, and they've won 3 out of 6 so far. It all started back in 2002 and 5. The team went into all the grand finals. So they lost 3, and then they won 3, and we won back-to-back back in 2017. And Ace was part of the team as well. He did his debut and getting best on grounds on the day. So we're looking again for next year's preparations to go and defend the cup and try to make it a hat-trick. But prior to that, we have, as I mentioned earlier, with the national championships in Kimbe. We've got 12 teams so far in the men's division. Port Moresby is going up with 2 men's teams. Kimbe is also hosting 2 men's teams. We got Lae, Hagen, Kove, Biala, Hoskins, East New Britain. and Garua those all for the men's teams. There's 12 of them, and we got 4 in the women's: Port Moresby, Lay, Kimbe, and Talasia as well. So straight after those the championships, there will be select sides for both the PNG Mosquitoes men's and the Flames. So and then the training starts early January once the team has been announced over the festive period. And then training starts from there. And then we also have a few boys and girls based down in Australia, playing in Australia in different states, which have already put their hands up for selection. So with the PNGFL Commission Board, they will pick a certain date, which they will have to be invited up here to go for the final trials, and then they will pick the best teams from there.
Thank you very much, Rex, for joining us on the studio tonight, and congratulations on the year so far and the products such as ACE coming out of AFL PNG and PNG AFL Commission. And we look forward to the 2020 calendar as well, especially the AFL International Cup that will be happening next year.
Moving on to rugby union, and the PNG Palas have one last shot at qualifying for the Olympics. This comes after their 4th finish at the Oceania Sevens in Fiji.
Pretty tough tournament for us this year, going back and playing amongst top teams like New Zealand and Australia coming for the tournament. I think in our pool we had a really tough challenge for us, facing Samoa Cook Islands and finishing 4th on day 3, finals day, against Fiji. Another tough team, but with injuries, with some players down, I think the girls managed to pull through. We have the World Series qualifiers up in Hong Kong before we have repechage, so that's a big, we have another big job ahead of us, so we're looking forward to working in the next few weeks. So 12 teams will be playing at the repechage, which is scheduled for June next year, 2020, which is in France. I think from Oceania region, PNG and Samoa will be going for that.
For the forwards, it's myself, Kimi, has been playing forward for a long time now, compared to Katie Puro and Fatima. But when they played forward with us, it's just normal. So they did well with us.
We'll go for a break now, and we'll wrap things up here on Sports In when we come back. Welcome back. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of the show, but before we go, of course, do catch the Great Britain Lions tour, the matches, the men's and women's matches that's coming up this Saturday right here on your number one to watch, AMTV. For the ones in Port Moresby, I'm sure some of you would have gotten yourselves tickets at Ticketmasters, and Oil Search National Football Stadium is definitely where you go this Saturday. Apart from that, there are also other things happening in and around the city. Some off-season sports. Killer, what will you be looking out to this weekend?
Off-season sports is on. We'll be running around to the city in Hohola and also the basketball courts at the TAC. So, getting excited for the weekend.
Nice. Apart from that, let's take a look at what else is coming up this weekend. Now, to be featured on Sports In, or if you know of an amazing sports story or event that you would like us to cover,
get in touch with us on email on sports@mtv.com.pg or message us on our Facebook page on Sports In, the Sports In page on Facebook, or call us on 312-9200.
Once again, thank you so much for watching. This has been another episode of Sports In. I'm Dinos Raiko.
And I'm Kilawani.
Good night.
Good night.